What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Foxcatcher, directed by Bennett Miller and starring an all-star cast that includes Steve Carell, Channing Tatum, and Mark Ruffalo. Now, Foxcatcher is a biographical crime drama sports film that tells the story of Mark and David Schultz and their dealings with John DuPont, who was this multi-millionaire amateur wrestling enthusiast. The Schultz brothers were Olympic gold medal winning amateur wrestlers back in the mid to late 80s. So this movie pretty much tells the story about how they came into their relationship with John DuPont and the ultimate demise of one of the brothers. All right, so I'm going to try and speed through this review and just give you my overall thoughts. I overall think that Foxcatcher is a really good crime drama and a really good sports movie. I overall think that the three actors did a great job on screen. Channing Tatum is an actor who I am not a big fan of. I mean, I don't hate him as an actor at all. If I see Channing Tatum in a movie, I know he's gonna do the best he can do. But I actually thought he was actually pretty good as Mark Schultz. Now, prior to this, Tatum did not really do a whole lot of dramatic acting. So in this movie, you can tell that he's doing his best to put on a good performance. But there are some areas where he could be a little bit clunky here and there. But overall, I think Channing Tatum did hold his own. Mark Ruffalo is a fantastic actor, and Mark Ruffalo did a great job playing David Schultz. And I do like the chemistry between Tatum and Ruffalo. I really do get the dynamic of them being brothers and these accomplished amateur wrestlers, and their relationship. It works for me for the most part. Steve Carell as John DeMont. Steve Carell in this movie, he was great. He had that right amount of manipulative. He had that manipulative nature to him, and you can clearly tell that the DuPont character was this smooth talking, this smooth talking, manipulative type of person who will seduce you with these good things, and he used these things to pretty much seduce Mark and pretty much make Mark do whatever he wanted him to do. So, and Carell's performance in this movie was fantastic. He was a manipulative son of a bitch, and yet he came across as a very as somebody who Mark, I guess I could almost say, idolizes and looks up to. So it's a great performance. From a directorial standpoint, this is a visually really good looking movie. I think the cinematography in this movie is very very realistic and very very somber all throughout. This movie's got has got some interesting callback shots. There's literally one scene with Channing Tatum in a bathroom looking into a mirror, and I kid you not, it's almost as if it's Bennett Miller recreated the Terminator 1 scene of Arnold Schwarzenegger looking into the mirror. I mean, just look at Channing Tatum's face in that scene. His face and jawline looks exactly like young Arnold in 1984 during Terminator 1. The scene's an exact duplication of it. It's a strange scene to see in a movie like this, but I know my eyes and my brain noticed that instantly. I was like, oh, that's like a callback. That's interesting. Interesting shot. But the rest of this movie, visually, it's a visually great looking movie. It's dark, it's gritty, it's got a somber tone all throughout. The story of this movie, I think for the most part, the story of this movie is well constructed, and like I said, I like the relationship that develops between Mark and John DuPont. I like how Mark, like I said, idolizes this man to the point where he's pretty much seduced by DuPont. After DuPont is pretty much promises all these things, gives him everything, and then of course he introduces Mark to drugs and cocaine and stuff like that. And we also see how that starts to really screw around with Mark's head to the point where it starts to affect his abilities as an amateur wrestler, and he ends up losing a couple of matches. And then on the flip side, we have the David character, who is a more well-rounded, more grounded type of character, who's looking out for his brother, and he doesn't quite trust the character of John DuPont. And of course, this is what leads to David's death at the hands of John DuPont near the end of the movie. So I like how all that stuff is constructed, and I like how all that plays out. Now, let's get on to my negatives. My negatives of this movie is this movie, in a lot of areas, drags on. There are certain moments in this movie where if you cut maybe 30 seconds out, this movie would have had a much better flow. There's literally a scene where Channing Tatum is taking a piss, and why this scene is played out in full, I don't know. It adds nothing to the overall movie. It's kind of stupid. You could have cut that scene out. This we would have had a nice ebb and flow. Also, there are certain moments where Mark Ruffalo kind of disappears from the main plot, and then there are moments, and then when you get to the end of the movie, Channing Tatum's character kind of disappears as well. And not only that, once David Schultz is killed, we don't get to see Mark's reaction to the news of his brother being shot and murdered. Because once David Schultz is shot, John DuPont's arrested, and the next time we see Mark Schultz, he's walking into the octagon going in for a cage fight. I would have liked to have seen more of a resolution with Mark, maybe have him confront DuPont about why he killed his brother. We don't get a scene like that, and I'm not a big fan of that. I would have liked to have seen a scene of Mark dealing with his brother's death. I mean, his brother was just murdered, and this movie doesn't give me a scene where Mark is like, processing that information. I didn't like that whatsoever. Also, there are certain moments in this movie where I don't know if it's prosthetic makeup or it's just the way Channing Tatum decided to have his face constructed. But there are literally moments in this movie where Channing Tatum's face can look incredibly goofy, and there are also a lot of moments where Steve Carell, his facial makeup looks ridiculous. It looks just really, really goofy, and I give Carell credit. His performance is outshining it, but it can be distracting in a lot of areas. Even though Carell disappears into the role, and you would never know it's Carell unless you pay attention to his voice. But yeah, overall, I think Foxcatcher is a solidly made movie. It's got really strong performances. It's got a mostly tightly written story, and it's a very somber movie about it's a very somber movie about seduction and a manipulative man trying to get what he wants. And it all ends in tragedy when one man loses his life. And I think Bennett Miller did a good job at bringing this story to screen. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give Foxcatcher a solid 8 out of 10. I do overall recommend it. It is a good true crime sports drama, and it's good. It's a good watch. It's a good watch. So anyway, yeah, 8 out of 10 for Foxcatcher. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.